day of prayer today. So joining me are two faith leaders with bold visions for a nation that needs to repent and ask for God's mercy and guidance. The news you need to know, but with solutions and hope. This is Get Free with Kristi Leigh. Our next generation seems to actually be rejecting this season of woke we've been in, embracing faith and common sense. Reverend Robert Schuller seems to know why. He lived through the medical tyranny in California. So did I, and still does today. Everyone experienced it, but the kids he counseled were hit extremely hard. And now those kids are young adults who are voting, or at least getting ready to vote. Reverend Schuller, author of God Always Wins, Divine Liberation from the Gods of the Woke, joins us today with a very hopeful message. So thank you so much, Dr. Robert Schuller, for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you, Kristi. It's a pleasure to be here. And I love what you're doing, and I love the title of your program, and it is good.
Well, we do. We have freedom in Christ. It's just we already have it, so we just need to so get free, But certainly we have lived under tyranny and those that have threatened our freedom. But we just need to be reminded always that we have freedom in Christ. And I'm so excited to have you on because I do have very vivid memories of growing up watching your father. He was on our TV, the Hour of Power, quite frequently. And so I was like, wow, that's the son of the man I grew up watching.
You are way
not
too
to age
young
us.
to remember. You were a baby.
No, I'm not. No, so this is nice to get to meet you virtually, and especially on such an exciting topic. I think that a lot of us have written off our youth, thinking like, "Oh gosh, we're just down a never-ending cycle. They've captured our youth," and you really have a message of hope about our next generation.
Well, that generation is the one that didn't have a graduation. They suffered more persecution than anything. They had a natural immunity to COVID, and yet they were still required in order to go to college to get a vaccine. I can't tell you how many religious exemptions I wrote. Some schools accepted it. A lot of them, specifically in California, did not. They just rejected the students. They weren't allowed to go to their school of their choice, or in many situations, they weren't allowed to go back to their school. They were kicked out because they wouldn't get a vaccine because they were either vaccine injured, or they had a sibling who was vaccine injured, or they just were educated in how ineffective this vaccine was, or whatever it might be, and they just were kicked out. Same thing with the military, and the military these are young men. You can be 17 years old going to the military, and all of a sudden you're required to have this vaccine. So these are young people. And they're just graduating from high school, and they're now wrapping their face with a mask so they can't see anybody. I can't imagine being a teenager and wanting to go on a date, and all the girls have their faces covered with masks. I can't imagine how that would affect me emotionally and how that would scar me. But that's what they had to deal with. Yeah. So
just to hit this point home real quick, because I don't want to shy away from what this did to the kids at all. I'm the mother of 5 children. My oldest is now 17, turning 18 this year. It's so sad. And we had just moved to California when she was about 12, 13. And I literally watched my daughter turn. Yes, right when the pandemic hit, terrible timing to move to the most tyrannical state. But I watched my very outgoing daughter, who is a leader and very confident. I literally watched her turn into somebody else. She was no longer that super vivacious, outgoing person. She started getting social anxiety. She wore the mask way longer than she needed to, because they conditioned these children to feel
Brainwashed.
more comfortable. I mean, thankfully, she's broken free from that. But I
Yeah.
do still see some lasting damage that was done on our children. Also, that this was a huge time for them turning our children to screens, and opening them up to all kinds of predatory behaviors, not just the ones that you would think of, but just that being able to attack their mind and make them live in fear. And so I just really want to hit home about how damaging that time was, that we are still in the thick of the repercussions from that. But you're saying that some of those children that have been through this, now that they have that that ability to look back on what they've been through, it's actually worked. It's actually worked against the left and liberalism, right?
Oh, absolutely. What I am seeing is a rebirth of faith, of conservatism, of the truth, of a reaction to scientism, which is basically what my book addresses, because the gods of the woke are supported with a pantheon of scientism. Scientism is the whole understanding that they're experts, and these experts know everything, and they use jargon and language to leave out the laity, you and I, people who aren't experts, from participating in a conversation, and therefore they know everything and we know nothing. And that's scientism. It's not based upon real science. It's Anthony Fauci saying, "I am science." It is the CDC saying you have to wear a mask, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. All you have to do is, I don't smoke, but I've seen the YouTube videos. Someone takes a puff of a cigarette and exhales, and the smoke goes everywhere. I mean, that doesn't, and the virus is way smaller than the smoke, and it comes through the masks. So we know the masks didn't do anything. It makes absolutely no scientific sense whatsoever. But yet we're told to do this. And then social distancing. There was absolutely no understanding of 6 feet and why 6 feet. And yet there was these schools and these principals and the janitors are measuring out with a tape measure to make sure it was to the inch 6 feet distancing, and as if there was something magical about that. And yet there was absolutely no studies. The NVIC did it. I'm sorry, not the NVIC. That's a different organization. The Informed Consent Action Network actually went and requested and through subpoenas got all of the information, the science that went behind making all these statements, and the CDC could provide nothing. It's fake science. What happens is our young people, they can smell baloney. They know what baloney is when they see it. And when it happens over and over again, they just can smell it better and better and better. And as a result of that, they're rejecting the scientism. They're rejecting the gods of the woke. They're saying this isn't real. This doesn't hold water. This doesn't make sense. And as a result of that, they're turning to the truth. And the truth is that Jesus Christ is our way through, our way in, and our way to forgiveness, grace, wholeness, and the reality of the goodness of God. So they're finding this. And it's exciting.
And I love the title of your book, God Always Wins, because that is what we need to constantly be reminded of. And to that end, something else interesting, I think, happened during that pandemic season. And that was what I like to think of, that whole analogy of, separating the chaff from the wheat. We saw Christians that were at the forefront of the medical freedom movement, but we also saw churches that were submitting, that were closing down, that were saying like, oh, we need to respect the authorities' guidance. And so tell me a little bit about that and what that revealed to you.
Well, this came down like the 1st of March, the end of February, that the churches were going to have to close down for 2 weeks. That was it. Just flatten out the curve. Remember that expression? Flatten out the curve. We're just going to be closed for 2 weeks. These are demands that we need for 2 weeks. So with that, I told all the pastors that I know, hey, don't quit holding services. Just go and have a service in your parking lot. You can have people come in their cars. Then that way you're following what the state requires. You're not violating anything. If there is something to this thing, you're being respectful. And all you have to do is go and get a little FM radio receiver, which you can buy on Amazon I even gave them the link to get this receiver. It's like $135 or something. And it's an FM radio receiver that will go out a quarter mile, no license required, nothing. You just plug it in and go. And none of them would do it, not one. And so with that, I'm going, well, if you guys aren't going to do this, I'll do it, because I told you how simple it is. I'll show you how simple it is. And I went and found a parking lot. And my wife and I came out of retirement for 2 weeks, of course, and because we're just flattening out the curve, right? So we started holding services in a parking lot, and we just notified everyone in our contacts and streams, and we had like 50 to 100 cars there the first Sunday, and they came back again and again, and the bad news is I warned all these guys that if you close your church, they're not going to let you if you're looking for Gavin Newsom's blessing, you're going to be waiting at least a year. It turned out being a year and a half before he blessed the churches to open their doors again, from 2 weeks to a year and a half. And so I said, you're going to be closed for a year and a half. Finally, some of them opened in May. And in June, my son's church opened in September, and a lot of churches opened in September, and they kind of slowly opened up. But I did it for 2 weeks, and on Easter in April of 2020, we were the only place anybody could go to church, to worship, in all of Orange County, with a population of 3.2 million people. So almost every pastor closed their doors. And I had a unique situation where I understood how health and wellness worked. I had a radio show for 5 years, and we talked about health and wellness from 1995 to 2000, and my eyes were wide open. I understood that the FDA, back then in 1990, I understood that the FDA was captured by Big Ag and Big Pharma, and that CDC was captured by Big Pharma. I understood this back in 1990, and I just continued to communicate that message to people as much as I could. So I had that unique experience and that unique ability to know that this was not. And it didn't pass my smell test even a little bit, not even close. And so I opened the churches, and I was a revolutionary, and just continued to move forward with faith, knowing that this was not going to be as serious as they were saying it was.
And thank God for courageous pastors like yourself that were willing to step up in this time where we needed God more than ever. And it's amazing that you were already preempted to recognize the scientism, the gods of the woke, with the stupid, phony guidelines from all these supposed health agencies. So, I mean, it's amazing that you were able to be in that position for such a time as this.
Yeah. But that's the way God works. He did that with Moses. Think about it. Moses was thrown into the river, and as a result of that, he spent his first 40 years in the court of Pharaoh. That was all part of God's plan. He needed to be in the court of Pharaoh, so he was specifically and uniquely equipped, be able to come to Pharaoh 40 years later, and knowing how the system worked, how the court worked. Being able to get access to Pharaoh. I don't think just anybody could walk in there and get access to Pharaoh, but Moses could, because he understood how it worked. That was his unique gift. And that's the way God worked with me. And he works with that with a lot of people. You go through tough times, and you go through challenges, and and you go, how is this possible that this happened to me? Why would God allow this to happen to me? And we don't understand it. And that's because we only see the backside of the tapestry of life. All we see are the strings and the knots and the mess. But God sees it from the top side. He understands the whole picture. He knows what's going on. He knows that when we're going through those valleys and we're going through those tough times, He is preparing us and equipping us, or equipping society and culture for something that's going to explode and make a huge difference in the world and in our lives. And that's what God was doing me through that radio show for 5 years, and understanding how health and world. And that's what He was doing with Moses while he went through when he was in the court of Pharaoh. And quite frankly, that's what He was doing when He allowed Biden to win the 2020 election. He was allowing Trump 4 years to get ready to make huge changes and have an impact that he couldn't have had to save our democracy, which wouldn't have happened had he served his term in 2020. So God is always at work. He knows things far better than we could ever possibly imagine, and He's doing it because He always wins. He wants the best for you and for me, and it happens.
Yes. The name of your book, God Always Wins, Exposing the Gods of the Woke and the Rise of Scientism. And you went through that experience so that you could speak about it in this book. And to that end, though, since we're talking about being called for such a time as this, are there examples of any persecution you faced during that time for standing up for the truth and standing up for religious freedom? Did you face any instances of censorship or anything like that?
Oh, I was completely censored. We were taken down off of YouTube because I have a live church service every Sunday morning at 8 a.m., which on Facebook, and we had a huge audience, and it's completely shut down. We have the same thing with YouTube. So yeah, we experienced persecution, but that's nothing compared to what our kids experienced. And beautiful thing that I want to share with people. I want you to go and go to YouTube and search Passion 2024. And what will happen is you will see a video come up Agnus Dei. It's 20 minutes long. And I found this just looking for worship music. And when I saw this, I wept. And the reason at first I've been watching this going, what is this? How does this happen? It's filmed in the Mercedes-Benz Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's packed with people. And then I realized these people are all young. And I discovered that Passion 2024 is a conference that takes place every year in Atlanta. And you have to be between the age of 18 and 25. And so this arena is packed with 18 to 25-year-old young people. And what's the attention span of that age group today? 3 seconds? 2 seconds? I hear it's like somewhere between 2 and 5 seconds max before they swipe left and go to the next thing. Here they are for 20 minutes, a cappella, worshiping God, praising God, prostrate in front of God, and receiving the Holy Spirit. And it is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I realized that these kids, this is it. These kids are all the ones who didn't get a graduation, who were given a screen and forced to, and their babysitters are an iPad or an iPhone. And here they are, just a cappella worshiping God, and the arena is filled. And when you realize this goes on for 20 minutes on this video alone, it's not 2-3 seconds. It's not there, and it's the most amazing thing you've ever seen. You will weep and you will cry. It is the Holy Spirit of God calling people. And so we see it spiritually. We see it politically. I look at the explosion that Charlie Kirk has experienced. And here's this generation. Oh, they're not joiners. They're not active. He has put together a team of people to go around and explain, and he is ambitious about his faith in Jesus Christ. He doesn't shy from the gospel, and the young people are coming and listening to him, and he is empowering them, and they're going out, and it is a movement in this generation of truth and wholeness and goodness like we've never seen. It's a revival.
Well, I think we're hungry for positivity and those signs of hope, after everything that we've been through, and particularly entering a new administration. So I do hope people will check out that Passion 2024 on YouTube and just to be encouraged seeing young people turning back to God, worshiping God, even though that they have those short attention spans. I wanted to shift the topic a little bit on you real quick, just in light of recent events. We just had the passing of Pope Francis. And so I wanted, since your book is titled God Always Wins, and rejecting the gods of the woke and scientism, Pope Francis was... the biggest criticism he faced was kind of embracing this woke ideology. So what are your thoughts on his passing, and what do you see or anticipate happening with the church there?
The conclave is meeting currently, and there will be a new pope. And the question is, which direction is the new pope going to go? Which way direction is the church going to go? But the Pope Francis was, in my opinion, a globalist. He didn't follow real science, and I think that's because he was manipulated by others. He had a communist kind of a ideology. He didn't understand the power of free enterprise, the power of capitalism. He saw the negative side of capitalism. I have a whole chapter in my book on capitalism and communism and the impacts of both. And so I am a firm believer that capitalism is the finest economic engine that the world has ever seen and will ever see. And I believe that that communism has always led to death, destruction, and incomplete or a insufficient form of economic development. So I believe he was just misguided in that regard. Now, whether the future popes will follow that is yet to be determined. But I'm a Protestant, not a Catholic, and I come from a family that strongly encouraged this kind of economic development as far as capitalism, free enterprise, and entrepreneurship, and so that's my heritage, and I've just seen it as the best form of economic development that any country can ever have. You look at the corruption in capitalism, and yes, it exists, but it is nothing compared to the corruption and the degradation that takes place in every other form that we have and we know about today.
Now, in your book, God Always Wins, you're exposing the gods of the woke, but it seems that woke and wokeness does mean a little bit different things to different people. How are you defining what wokeness is?
Wokeness is the current pantheon of scientism that has been created by those who do not understand who God is. What happens is, and we have seen this throughout the history of mankind, and even in current non-civilized societies. If you go to a tribe in Brazil in the Amazon that's never been exposed to Western culture or civilization, they have their own pantheon of gods. It's typically animism, where you have the god of the tree, the god of the ocean, the god of the sky, the sun god, the moon god, et cetera, et cetera. It's their pantheon of gods. And every time we take our eyes off of God, Yahweh, the creator, Yahweh is Hebrew for I am. As soon as you take your eyes off of God, the creator, the I am of God, we automatically start creating within our minds a pantheon of gods. We have seen it as some of the earliest in Babylon. Then in Egypt, they have their pantheon of gods. The same with Greece and Rome. Rome tried to incorporate Yahweh into their pantheon, and the Israelites would not allow it. They would not accept it because they knew, and they know, that they had experienced the real God, the true I am, and there can be no other God. And one of the commandments of God to the Israelites was, you shall have no other gods besides me. So they could not allow their God to be incorporated in the pantheon of Rome. That was the foundation upon the discord between Israel and Rome. So coming back to this wokeness is as soon as you take your eyes off of I am, the God of creation, you start creating a pantheon. So that started happening in the United States in the 60s. It happened when we took prayer out of the schools. We took the Bible out of the schools. It happened when we took the Ten Commandments out of our courtrooms. It continued when we no longer require people to put their hands on the Bible before they make a testimony in courts. And so suddenly God doesn't exist. So what happens when God doesn't exist? When Time magazine said God is dead, what happens? Our minds, our souls automatically start creating a new pantheon of gods. And that is the pantheon of scientism. And that scientism turned into wokeness. And the wokeness is based upon false science. So the false science says, in the state of California, we actually have, I say that kind of facetiously, it's really California. So in California, we have required education for second graders and up. They start studying the genderbread person. They have a little picture of a gingerbread man, and they call it the genderbread person, and 8 different genders that they can choose from, and they're taught, which gender are you? 2 of them, of course, is male and female. And that's the state of California. That is part of the wokeness, to destabilize society, to destabilize culture, and based upon this false science that we're more than just male and female. There are 2 sexes, it's male and female. You go anywhere in the world, any culture, and you say, how many sexes are there? They're going to look at you. You don't know. How old are you? And yet we have a Supreme Court justice who can't define what a woman is. And the fact that she was approved not being able to define a word, isn't that the purpose of the Supreme Court, to define words, to define what does this word in the Constitution mean? How does that apply to us as a society? That's their job. And yet she can't define a word as simple as what is a woman? It's mind-boggling, and it's mind-boggling because it goes against everything that's natural, everything that God has given to us, everything that goes according to His word and the way we are supposed to live. And that's scientism. It uses false understandings to create an image so that the oligarchs can manipulate and control us and ultimately bring us to a form of communism.
Yes. So if you want to learn more about this, you can get Dr. Robert Schuller's book. It is God Always Wins. And I do need to wrap, but I do want to throw some final thoughts at you. We have been given an opportunity, I believe totally God has given us this opportunity with this pause, if you will, with a second crack at a Trump administration and some more religious freedom. And, we're encouraged by youth rejecting this wokeness, as you said. I am also old enough to remember loving music by Keith Green. I still do. I still listen to him. Such powerful music by Keith Green. And he was part of that whole Jesus Revolution where we saw a great revival, I believe, in our country. Do you think that we are on the precipice of something that big or even bigger? And what do you think that we can do to really bring about revival and answer our youth's questions about things that they might be hung up on when it comes to the Bible or God.
We are absolutely in the process and of a revival. I see it happening. I participated in Baptized California, where we had nearly 20,000 people baptized on one Sunday. We're having that again on Pentecost Sunday here in California. So there's thousands of people on the beaches of Huntington Beach and Pirates Cove, which is where the Jesus movement started, and where they had their revival. And people are coming to God. They're giving their lives to Jesus. And programs like this, the word that you're doing, all just continues to layer upon each other until someone says, this is real. Billy Graham used to say when he had his crusades and thousands of people would come forward at one of his crusades, he said, I'm just number 25 in the different layers of God touching someone's heart. So they hear something from their grandmother. They hear something on an Instagram post. Then they go to church and they hear a pastor. And by the time they have 25 introductions and words of God, it suddenly, and maybe sometimes it happens instantly, but it suddenly clicks and they go, this is real. And in Romans 10:9, it says, if you will profess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that he rose from the grave, you will be saved. It is that simple. And as people are coming to the realization of Jesus as Lord of their life and believing in their heart that he rose from the grave, just through the history, through the testimonies, through their own eyewitnesses, through the miracles, eyes are being opened and they're coming to Jesus.
Great. So if you want hope and you want to learn more on this subject, again, pick up his book, God Always Wins, and keep us updated on and any other things that you're working on. Again, that's the book, God Always Wins, Divine Liberation for the Gods of the Woke by Robert A. Schuller. And pick that up on Amazon. You can also pick that up on the website as well, right?
Yes, you can. Yeah, if you go to our website, all the proceeds of this book goes to the church. And the church gets a little larger royalty if you go to our website and buy it directly from the publisher. But the important thing is you get the message. The important thing is you get the book, read it, share it, and let the world know that God always wins.
Yes, we certainly need that reminder always, that message of hope. So thank you so much. And yes, keep us updated.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you so much.